It has been a long week. I don't know if you can tell by my eyes, but what's going on, Adventure Gang? My name is Denzel Pratt, and you're watching another episode of Mandor Explorer. Today's video will be focusing on the newly introduced INURIG, which is in fact a Japanese term for dog rig. Look at the action on this thing. This particular rig is storming its way into the bass fishing world as we speak, which is why I want to show you guys the newly learned technique that can help you to gain success on your next fishing adventure. Now you may be thinking, why should I switch things up if it's working so good for me right now? The answer is simple. New presentations help to confuse fish, which is why you should change it up every now and then. If you continue to fish the same old bait every time you go to a particular bass location, those fish are going to become accustomed to seeing that profile and may not strike as much as they did the first time you went there. With that being said, is the INURIG going to be better than something like a wacky rig or net rig? Well, it's too early in the game for this particular lure for us to know that. But I can tell you one thing, it's a pretty darn good contender. Look at that. The action of the INURIG is associated with something of a snake more than a worm to me, but that's just my opinion. I mean, I do know that bass eat snakes, so it's fine. Regardless, I've seen people with pretty good success already on this rig. So what that means is, we need to dive in to see exactly how to make this rig so that you guys can get out on the water and catch some bass yourself. So the first thing I think you're gonna need, which is the most important, is some good quality worms. And the one that I'm using for this demonstration is the Gary Yamamoto Custom Baits, and this is the 5-inch Yamasinko. So if you want to go get this particular bait, it's probably at your local Walmart or some type of outfitter that you have in your area. It's really durable. I like the type of material it's made from, and you want to have something that's going to be really durable when you're fishing this type of style. The second thing you're going to need is wacky hooks. Now I choose to go to weedless version rather than the normal hook just because I fish a lot of riverbeds and streams and I don't want to be hooking up to the bottom of those riverbeds. The third thing you're going to need are split rings. You can find these at Walmart or some type of outfitter near you. I did also find this necklace repair kit at Walmart, and I think that this may be a better option just because the little rings that come in this are smaller and a little bit more smoother than the split rings that you can get from the fishing stores. The third thing you're gonna need is some type of surgical tubing, but I wasn't able to find surgical tubing, so I got what are called coffee stirrers. You could get these at gas stations or even out of your kitchen if you have them already. And this is how they look. The last two things that you're going to need is a pair of scissors and some crazy glue. So the first thing you want to do is grab one of the tubing materials that you have and cut that at an angle. Make sure that it has a really sharp point because you're going to be using this tubing material to penetrate a worm. So what you want to do is find a side that you can easily identify. And I'm just going to use this dark side. Some worms have a flat side that you can use, and I'm just going to use this dark side. I'm going to insert my tubing about a 1/2 inch down from the top. There you go. And so once you've done that, then you want to loop this worm over, keeping this tubing on the same side that it came out and going back in about a 1/2 inch down from the egg sac. It's going to look like this after the second step. Third, you want to come back right at the bottom and stick this tubing into the bottom of that worm in the same side that it came out of. There you go. That's how it should look once you get done sticking the tubing through. What you want to do is grab that super glue and place a drop on the top of each section where the tubing penetrates the worm. You don't want to put too much because you don't want it to spill everywhere, but just a tad bit on each section. And then you want to work that worm up so that it can sit properly on that super glue. You can do that for each section. And once you get done doing that, you want to clip away all the extra tubing. Be sure it's flush as possible. One last snip. Maybe a good idea to wait until that stuff dries. Now you're halfway done with making your INURIG. And this is what it should look like after those steps. I mean, I should have clipped that down a little bit more, but I see some glue right there, so I didn't want to mess with it too much. Now, what you want to do next is get one of your wacky hooks, grab your fishing pole, and pick up one of those wacky hooks that you got. Then you want to insert that fishing line with the hook pointing up, just like that. After you've done that step, you want to grab your worm and insert that line on the highest side of that angle. So if you're looking at it, it's angled down. Insert that line on this highest side right here. And there it is. You don't want to mess with this hook right now. Just leave it as it is. We're going to come back to it in a second. So you want to take this line and go right back into the side that you just came out of in the next tubing section. And the same goes for the next side that you came out of. Once you got to the end of there, you want to tie the split ring onto the end of this line using your favorite rig. Once you have attached that split ring to your rig, this is what it's gonna look like. And now you want to go back up to that hook, and so we can embed it into the skin of the worm. One important detail is you want to keep that eye right on the entrance of that tubing. So once you determine how far down it needs to go, then you would insert the hook into the skin of that worm. And this is how it should look once you get it done. I mean, you could make it look a little bit better than that, but as for a quick little tutorial, you get the point. And that, my friends, is the INURIG. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to investigate that subscribe button. And if you feel the urge to hook set to the Mandara Explorer channel, I'll be happy to add you to the adventure gang. Thanks again for tuning in.